What can be achieved with motion capture? A hero defending the forces of evil of the Dark Ages. A terrifying creature seeking the flesh of its next victim. Or special forces ready for command. All this can be achieved through motion capture. But what is it exactly? It is the recording of people or objects' motion to be transferred into animation for characters or for research and analysis. In this case study, I'll be going through the technology of motion capture, the processes, the use cases, and their pros and cons. But before I start, let's take a quick look at the history of motion capture. Starting with 1915, Max Fraser, the creator of Betty Boop cartoons, invented rotoscoping, a technique that was used to add realism to the movement of the character by using film of live actors to be then painted over frame by frame. In 1939, Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs would be the first feature film to use that exact rotoscope technique. Then in 1959, animator Lee Harrison III created a full bodysuit that was lined with resistors and potentiometers, which allowed to record and animate the movement of actors. This would be the first case of real-time motion capture. Jumping to 1999 in Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace, Jar Jar Binks would be the first fully computer-generated character in feature film. Moving to 2002, The Lord of the Rings The Two Towers, motion capture that you would be familiar with today would be first implemented, with Andy Serkis playing as Gollum in the mocap suit on location with cameras to record his movement and facial performances. Then to 2004 with Polar Express becoming the first major film to be shot entirely with motion capture technology. Finally, with 2009 in Avatar that used virtual camera systems that allowed the camera to be able to move digitally during the shoot. Which leads us to today. One of the main use cases of motion capture is indeed with film, capturing the motions and their facial performance onto a CG character. But motion capture has also use cases not only in media, but also in real-life scenarios. Starting with video games, motion capture is used to capture the performance of actors to be applied in video games. This could be for story games where the emotion and nuances of the character movements are paramount to the experience. Motion capture can also be used to create animations that will be used in-game, an alternative to animating the movement by hand, whether it be realistic motion or more exaggerated motion for more stylized games. Outside of film and video games, motion capture can have analytical and health purposes as well. It can be used to analyze performances of people to gain greater understanding on specific movements of the human body for research or diagnosis. So how does motion capture work? What is expected in the motion capture studio? Well, there are actually multiple different ways of achieving motion capture. The one that most people think of, and is most commonly used in professional setting, is optical motion capture system. These include systems from companies like Vicon or OptiTrack. This is the system with many infrared cameras that surround the stage. The camera's sole purpose is to detect any tracking markers. The tracking markers are dots that you see on actors whenever they do motion capture. They are made of ultra-reflective material that directly reflects ultra-red light directly back wherever the light came from, which is what the camera will detect. Actors wear a skin-tight suit that is littered with tracking markers. Depending on the software, there is a method on how the markers to be placed. They are meant to be represented different bones of the body, so they need to be placed on the right points and at the right joints to get an accurate motion capture. With each camera receiving all the points of the dots, it would transfer that data into a software that would accumulate all the points and create a 3D real-time location of all the dots. Now, with all these different components and moving parts of an optical motion capture, it sounds like it would be very expensive. And that's because it is expensive. It requires thousands of dollars of equipment to operate, a large studio space to even utilize. However, it is the most accurate motion capture, and is the reason why it is industry standard. With optical tracking, you can get accurate movement of the actor, their facial performance, and capture the small movements of their fingers and feet. However, it's not the only method of achieving motion capture. First, there's markerless tracking, with companies like Theia or Radical Motion. This is the method where the actor is not required to put on a suit with tracking markers, relying solely on cameras to track the actor's movement. This requires the software to do much of the heavy lifting, on being able to interpret the actor's movement into motion capture data. The benefit of this is that it requires significantly less resources, only requiring camera and the software to operate while still being able to do live motion capture. It requires much less time for calibration and is significantly cheaper, and with companies like Radical Motion, it is completely free for people. That being said, it is not perfect. You will not be able to achieve accurate motion, especially for more nuanced movement, and especially around the hands and feet. However, it is an ever-evolving technology that will continue to improve in the future, and is a fantastic choice for independent creators. Another alternative that is in between markerless and optical is inertial motion capture. With companies like Sony Rikobi and Nansense, this type of tracking uses a device called an inertial measurement unit, or IMU, around the key points of the body that individually tracks the rotation, acceleration, and orientation, which combined together is able to calculate the motions of an actor. What's good about inertial motion capture is that it does not require a large studio to capture motion, only requiring the IMU and software, and depending on how many sensors are placed on the actor, it can capture accurate movement. It's a cost-effective solution for motion capture. However, due to no cameras, sliding and drifting will occur while recording for long periods of time. It is also incredibly difficult to catch performances between actors and objects using IMU, and it is highly susceptible to calibration errors. Regardless of what capture system you use, what are the actual benefits of using motion capture over traditional animation, or even physical costumes? Well, first, you are able to capture realistic performances. This is especially useful for live-action films, or actions with human-like characters in realistic settings. Second, it is incredibly efficient. You can get a lot of action and a lot of motion to be used for your character compared to the traditional 3D animation, which requires a lot of time and effort. Now, it is not all perfect, because motion capture can also be too realistic for animation, especially for projects where it is more stylized aesthetic. It is often better to animate characters traditionally to fully achieve the exaggeration needed. It is also costly, especially if you want to do industry-level accurate motion capture. That level is still not accessible enough for certain productions. Full professional motion capture studios, without a doubt, has a place to stay with how accurate they are, but motion capture has slowly become more accessible for more and more people. Now, not necessarily requiring a full studio for indie productions to do their own motion capture. Following a trend where the line of professional work and independent work is slowly blending together, and with the progress of technology, the accuracy for affordable motion capture is only going to get better.